This is my dad. Recently he was in hospital and almost nearly died. He had a thyroid issue and lost over 15 pounds in body weight. He actually is usually quite fit, does a lot of cycling and eats pretty well for a dad. But since coming out of hospital, he's struggling to get back into things and isn't really happy with where he's at. So I'm going to transform my dad in 30 days. He's now been out of hospital for a few weeks. It's day one. Let's go. So this is what my dad currently looks like. Each week we're going to be taking images of him. Although composition isn't the main goal of this transformation, it is still something that we want to take into consideration. Next, we took some performance metrics to give ourselves a bit of a base of where current fitness levels are up to. He managed to get 10 push-ups in total for 4 sets. And then he also completed 4 sets of air squats, of which he got 15 reps. Now this is something that we've got to be careful with due to his knee pain, which is something we're going to address, alongside a hernia that he still needs to have removed. Is going to mean we've got to be flexible with the program. Now the first weigh-in that my dad did had him at 12 stone, which is around 76 kilograms. Now when he was in hospital, he actually ended up dropping down to 66 kilos. So the goals of this program are going to be for him to put on muscle tissue, to lose some body fat, increase his mobility, increase his quality of life and mindset, and address his current injuries. The first thing we're going to do is get him booked into physio.
So the right hip, and whereabouts are you feeling it on that right hip? So it's all in and around the side there, okay. And that is both the hip and the knee.
Knee worse.
The knee's worse than the hip.
Basically falling apart.
So if for any reason you do this and you think, oh, feels easy, or I feel it here, you'll have rocked back.
Right.
So keep that forward. So push into me with your heel. So push, that's it. And then you'll roll the football up the wall a few inches. Great, yeah, that position's lovely. And down. And then again, and roll it up. Yeah, great. And relax there. Perfect.
Next, we went over his form in the gym. As someone who really weight trains to be polite about it, this is where form overload matters, especially for injury prevention. So we went over a couple of exercises I had planned to put into his program and gave some pointers and cues on how to best execute these. The next thing I did, I bought him a Wahoo kicker and we set up Zwift. The thing that he loves to do is cycle. He just doesn't have the confidence at the moment to get back out onto the road, and it's something that he can do regularly in the comfort of the garage. For the program itself, I haven't actually set any calories for this. I think for some people, especially when starting, calories don't always need to be a necessity. And for someone like my dad, we decided not to. So what we did instead, looked at protein intake and portion control. Now, the one thing that I give to a lot of clients, and a tip that I give to a lot of people, is build your meal around your protein source. A lot of people will complain that they struggle to get protein in the day. However, if you look at how most people will source a meal, it will be carbs, fat, and then maybe they'll add a bit of protein. Don't be that person who puts on a baked potato and then sprinkles a little bit of beans on top and says you're hitting your protein intake. The next thing we did was set up the program. So I talked them through a platform that I use for a lot of clients, which is TrueCoach, and we did a bit of a testing week, which is where we took his push-ups and his air squats. He also completed an 8-minute FTP test, which was to help gauge where his power is for cycling, and then we kicked off the bike workouts from here. Now I'm going to have him on a couple of sessions per week, which is going to be 3 bike workouts and 2 full body workouts with nothing too exerting, and also taking in the advice from the physio. For my dad, training doesn't need to be super in-depth. He just needs to get moving, build up a bit of strength, build up a bit of endurance, and start to build his overall self-confidence.
So what was the point of this whole transformation? Well, it wasn't just about the physical and trying to get my dad to lose body fat or build muscle. It was because I was much more concerned about my dad's health in general and trying to get him into a more stable place and look after himself more in the day-to-day. And this is why I've teamed up with Movember for Father's Day, to really start to think about the impact that our fathers, our brothers, our sons, our cousins, our uncles, all these other guys who are in our life who would benefit for better mental well-being, who would also directly benefit ourselves and those around us. Because when these men are unhealthy in your life, we all feel it. There's always a direct impact on us and others around us when they are not in a good place. The thing is, when it comes to asking for help for men, it can often feel foreign. They often kick the can further down the road instead of just asking for help, especially when they're physically ill, not just mentally. And I know this from my own dad, because he lay in bed for like a week just trying to sweat it out and didn't want to burden people by asking for help, to the point where he almost died. He almost got to a point where he got so sick, he left it so long, that it became not only a small detriment to his own health, but something that was actually life-threatening. Now, the result of this for a lot of men is the wrong or no diagnosis, which then spirals out of control and ultimately leads to the sad part, of men dying early. So for Father's Day 2024, myself and Movember want to shine a light on those fathers who are with us, and unfortunately those who can no longer be. Because far too many men are dying too early and too young and from preventable causes. And from these preventable causes, men are dying 4.5 years younger than women. And despite the advances in healthcare, men in the UK in 2012 have still experienced declines in life expectancy.
There's a couple of stats that I just want to quickly point out as well about men from Movember themselves, who have actually popped them over. A third of men will wait and experience symptoms for months before seeking healthcare. Almost half of men agree that handling pain without help is a masculine thing to do. Again, this is something that I think men are just told to man up sometimes, or we think that complaining about our health is not masculine or doesn't make us a man, when in essence the real thing is speaking up and going to get help when we need it. And 56% of men admit to enduring symptoms for over a month before seeking help. And I know I'm someone who's guilty of this. I went and got an operation for testicular cancer last year, and it came down to the last minute where the hospital rang me a week before the operation to book me in because I'd left it for so long. So this goes to all those men out there, whether it be a cold or a flu symptoms or a lump on your nuts. Make sure to speak to someone about it, and if not, at the very least, seek some guidance or some kind of support from a health professional. When my dad was in hospital, there was a time and a period there where I thought, do you know what, there's a chance that he's actually not going to come home. And this really got me worried and got me thinking about the potential opportunities that I've taken advantage of and not seeing my dad enough over the past couple of years just because I'm busy. And also, I've probably seen my dad maybe twice a month on average for the past year, and I've worked it out based on the average life expectancy of a male and my dad. It's not an awful amount of times I'm going to see him before one day he passes away. Now, my relationship with my dad, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people, is based around sport, and we often speak a lot about sport, but very little about how we actually feel. And this was something that was just omnipresent when I was a child, and something that I saw my dad a lot of the time suppress his feelings and emotions, and the only time I ever saw him cry was when my nan died. And again, there's probably only one moment in time I can remember where I've actually told my dad how I feel, and that was in a room full of 150 other people. So I really just wanted to leave you with that vulnerable moment where I spoke to my dad, and it was on my wedding day. I haven't told this story before, but I'll try and give you the meat of it. I needed to find £10,000 as a young guy in my 20s, or call it a day, on my current business due to one bad decision or another. I knew my dad wasn't exactly Jeff Bezos at the time, and when I was a kid would tell me to piss me off fast for 30p on a Saturday for a bottle of Iron Brew, which is where he got his nickname from by my granddad, Tight Arse. But I plucked up the courage to ask him for £10,000 to save my business nonetheless, whilst in the back of my mind knowing it was a pipeline dream in reality, and I would probably be looking at a career elsewhere. To my surprise, and without hesitation, he said yes. My dad literally saved my business at the time, allowed me to follow a career in what I loved, and did it without even batting an eyelid. Why? He had what I like to call delusional optimism, blind belief. Belief which required no previous evidence to gain his trust, all because I was his son. Which in retrospect has led to everything else that came along as part of my work-life ecosystem and finding the love of my life. So for that, Dad, I just want to say thank you. If I can be half as good as a dad as you, I will be a happy man. I know that Grandad will be looking down on you and super proud of you too. So on that, here's the start of my dad's 30-day transformation. He's currently 2 weeks into the transformation, and I will be releasing the 30-day video as we go along. But the main point of this video is, I want people to look out for the men that are around them. The ones that say, I'm okay, but deep down aren't. And what impact that person will or won't have on your life if they aren't here anymore, whether that be a father or an uncle or a brother or a son. Whether you are lucky or not to still have your father in your life or not, I hope that you have a great Father's Day with them, or remembering them, becoming a great father yourself, or bettering yourself as a man.